Welcome to the New Indian Woman, and I'm your host Krishna. In this podcast, we will examine the challenges faced by us in managing our lives and our families. In each episode, we will also look at the techniques that worked for different women, examine how to adapt it for us in today's context, and learn from each other. You will get actionable strategies set in the Indian context on a wide variety of topics, right from identifying your passion to better productivity and parenting. In today's episode, I'm happy to welcome Preeti Rajagopalan, working as a manager in a reputed Indian IT organization in Bangalore. She's also the mother of twin girls who are now teenagers. Preeti, apart from a full-time and more IT job, has pursued her interest in people with a very active passion for counseling people. Today, we will discuss what has worked for her challenges, how she overcame them, and what her dreams and aspirations are. So now, over to Preeti. Welcome, Preeti.
Hi, Krishna. Thanks a lot. Quite a very crisp introduction about me.
Okay. Nice to have you. So why don't you give an introduction about yourself and the primary roles that demand most of your attention and your passion projects, hobbies, etc. for our listeners.
Sure. So professionally, I'm a competency manager for a business unit of say 5,000 odd employees, and that is my professional job. And then personally, I'm married. I have children, as you told. I have two adolescent girls, and then my parents and my parents-in-law in different stages of health and all of that. And the most important stuff that I do as a passion is giving emotional support. So how it all happened was in the place where I work, there was this initiative from the benefits team that we can have volunteers for counseling. What we call it as lay counseling, because we're not professionals in hardcore counseling. They gave us a good 5-day.
This was how long back approximately?
So 3.5 years back. And there was and all this training was happening on a weekend because this is a volunteering for the organization. So we were very clear that it wouldn't be on an office working day. So there was a good 2 weekends, and then the third weekend, 1 day we had. And after all the training, then we were shadowed. So it's shadowed in the sense whenever I get calls, clients, I would start off with the client, and then after every session with the client, I will have to talk to a senior. So I started off, the training was for about 5 days, went across 2-3 weekends. And soon after the weekends, we were shadowed for about 3 to 4 months, where when I see clients, so these callers are also our employees. So we counsel our own employees on emotional, anything, not just work related. It can be on anything under the cloud. So after the 3-4 months of shadowing, where we would go and speak to our seniors on what we have done or what we have spoken, how things have been progressing with the callers. We call them callers. And then after we stabilize, then we are left on our own.
You are equipped to handle these people on your own without shadowing.
Absolutely.
So does it mean this works like a first level of counseling where you understand their concerns, you make them feel that there is support, and wherever it is required, you redirect them to a more qualified person?
Absolutely. So within more qualified would be external.
Okay.
That is when we would tell them, okay, now you need, even from the start, when I meet the callers the first day, I will get to know that whether this person needs psychiatric help, whether need full-fledged psychologist help.
Because you were trained for that. You were trained for that.
That much I will be able to handle. But if it is within our own that I know I can handle this case, then I would continue multiple sessions.
Okay, so I would like to pause here and focus on this because this particular area of interest of interacting with people, this is a completely different area. It's not what your expertise is in terms of your profession. So when did this interest start? Is it something which was always there in you, and when you saw this requirement for volunteers, this interest got revived? Or is it another opportunity that came and you thought you will try it out?
No, it is the first thing. It is, I'd always had people whom, when I talk to them, I'm talking in the last 10, 15 years, when I met people, I realized that while I was talking to them, I was able to connect one-on-one and understand probably where they need a little help or a little push somewhere. All of us know what we want to do sometimes, but that little tap on the back is what really helps. So then when this opportunity came, I just grabbed it. And it was not a simple one. The process is very huge.
The process itself is one thing, but I would also like you to convey that in the context of the demands on your time. So let me step back a minute for the benefit of our listeners. So when an opportunity to volunteer for anything comes up, okay, yes, somebody is going to train you. So they know how to train you. Fair enough. You can have some confidence issues of whether I will clear the training certification or whatever it is. But the sheer demand in terms of the additional hours, and all of us know in an IT job how the demand is, and you as a senior person in IT with almost 15 years experience in the IT, the demands it increases exponentially by every year, and plus with the 2 young children. So what was your feeling of, I would like you to just go back to that moment where on one side you were pulled to, wanting to go to that training, to register as a volunteer or whatever that means. That is there, pulling you on one side. And on the other side, you know that, any moment, any spare minute I get, I would rather clear my work backlog or spend time with my daughters. That pull is what most of us as women are familiar with. So could you just take us back to that moment and tell us how you took the decision to register?
Okay, if I have to go back, can I rewind 10 years back?
Yes, please.
And then come here. Maybe a long response to your question.
Sure, it helps.
Okay. So one is understanding that people need help. That has always been there in my mind. So initially, whenever I used to interact with people, I realized that I was in a small way helping them. Maybe not as a professional, but as a colleague or as a
listening board.
Yes, mostly it is the listening.
Okay.
And then I just tell them a line or two, and then they open up, and then they realize that they didn't think in that direction at all. So I knew that I can help people, and that is when slowly there were multiple instances in my circle of people, whether professional or personal, where I have been helping. Not helping, I wouldn't say helping, maybe giving a hearing ear. And then this opportunity came, and then they had a long process to, we were interviewed before to know if we had the basic quality and without which we will not be even given training. So that is what we were assessed on. It's later is when I came to know. And so after all this, so that one is where I got into the training process, how I was selected. We were a bunch of 10 people selected on around 2,000 applications that was received.
Excellent.
So 2000,
but before even that, did you have a doubt in terms of the demands it will have on you?
So as part of the questioning, my seniors, the panelists, they were like 3-member panelists. who interviewed me for 45 minutes. So after 45 minutes, they told this is what is the demand. And I said, yes, I will do because of the only one reason that I can help people. And that is something that I don't know how to express when I talk to my callers. So I call them callers, but we have to meet them physically, not on the call. But that's the word that we use. So I'm using the same word. Yeah, so when we meet the callers, not in the first session, not in the second session, maybe after I have met callers for like 9, 10 sessions also, they will feel so happy that how they have changed their thinking, how they were in a maybe sort of a tangled mess, and then how I was able to loosen those knots here and there without overpowering their thoughts, because their lives are different. I only know them for that 1 hour that I sit in the room with them. And then, so I don't know, but somewhere I get that small nuances. And when I tell them, or just, I can't even tell, I can only suggest, did you try, or do you think this is a possibility for you to try? And then they would like, yeah. And then, after 7, 5, 6 sessions, the kind of tears that they had thanking me really moved me. And so as part of the interview, the panelists did tell me that you will be required to spend anywhere 4 to 6 hours in a week meeting callers and within the office hours, but because it is part of the organization, but they would come with varied different concerns. You can't even think what concerns they come. I can't even tell it. It's and nothing on office issues. I probably had only one. 99% of it is all personal issues. So most of the time it is like how we go to a doctor, we go to a pediatrician for the kids, or ortho, or whomever, and a specialist like that. For mental support, this is very important. All of us go through a lot of concerns in our day-to-day life, say it with our own siblings, with our parents or parents-in-laws, or our own family, spouses, children. Somewhere we get hurt and we don't know how to come back, and this helps. Counseling, mental support. We just talk to someone for an hour, but with an open mind, not just listen and say, oh, it's not like that. We should have that openness to listen, and the trust and the confidence that they have on us, that I will not judge them. That's most important. And I won't form an opinion about them. And the most is, I will not tell it out, in the sense, there's a lot of confidentiality that they have.
So they are able to trust you.
Yes. So then after that 3 months that I was telling, shadowing is their way of assessing us, whether we are spending that much time with the clients, or, if we are not able to devote time, then we will be out of this whole program. So that is another way of checking. And then after that, yes, it really demands. I still remember there was one caller who called me around 4:30, and that day I'd reached home early that day, 3:30. I reached home because I had some personal stuff, and I get a call, and this caller wanted me to meet. I had to meet the caller within an hour's time. And I couldn't say no, because the way this caller was talking to me, I felt that the caller really needed me. So then I had some work. So then I figured out what to do. And then I said, give me 1.5 hours. I will be there by 6. So I went back to office for the 6 o'clock call, meaning to meet her. And so that, in that 1 hour, I was able to handle things at home. And then I was with the caller, and it really helped.
So it requires a tremendous level of commitment, which you understood as part of the assessment, and the shadow period helped you figure out how to manage these and then be ready for this kind of a opportunity and what it asks of you. right?
Absolutely, you're right. Because sometimes if there is no commitment,
Yeah. So when you say commitment, maybe I am interpreting it as maybe it's a passion. Unless you're convinced about it, unless you are ready to dedicate that effort towards it and what it demands, you will not be able to sustain it.
so there is so when there is a lot of passion, I think it comes very easily for all of us. I realized it only when I took over volunteering for this, because sometimes when we work, we feel, oh, okay, this is another work. Sometimes we tell excuses to ourselves, not to our managers and colleagues. That's like still secondary. To ourselves, okay, I can still do this tomorrow, like that. But for this kind of volunteering stuff, where there is a lot of passion, I think it comes very easily, and our energy doesn't drain. The tiredness and all of that is there,
So what you're saying is, so this has demanded so much, but still because of the passion, it drives you to do more. And I would assume this would have made you, take a lot of time, lot of your personal time, either from your family or in terms of making up for lost time at work. Because
Yes.
while you mentioned that this is during office hours and this is part of the employee support provided by the organization, but your role demand is not less because you are volunteering for this, correct? You are
Yeah.
not working as a 90% employee or anything because you are contributing to this. The full demands of your role continues,
Yes.
which means you
And
have to take time out from your personal time to finish your work or to do the personal demands.
yes, you're right. And it does not even come as part of my KRA.
Okay.
So, yeah,
The key result areas you are saying.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So tell me now, what are the biggest challenges you faced
Mm.
and how you overcame that and what are your learnings from those time?
So the demands now is so different, both at home and in office, when my children were small. So both, I will tell you what happened. So when they were small, I had to be physically around, and I used to ask for physical help a lot. Multiple issues on health and lot of other things.
Yeah.
So it was more physical in nature. And anytime I was always look out for additional help. My parents, in-laws did help me, but beyond that as well, I wanted physical help.
Mm-hmm.
And there were times when in office I used to be. I still remember one of my daughter was. My husband had just gone for like 2-3 days out of station and on his personal trip, not on official. And this one girl, she missed him. That was the first time the father is going out. Otherwise we were all together.
Mm-hmm.
And he went out, and the next day morning she gets up with fever.
Hmm.
And that was the same day that I had a review with a very senior leadership. It was a planned review, nothing like it was planned like 2 weeks ahead. Like we had to, have this review at 4 o'clock, so and all of that. And this girl falls sick, and I didn't have my parents or in-laws at home. I was, I don't know, I got psyched until morning. I was there nursing all of that, and in the afternoon I asked my help to come a little late, so that the time that she normally does at home, I told her come a little late so that when I go to office, you are there to take care.
Mm-hmm.
And then yeah, thankfully she um, obliged, and then I went around for my review, and I came back, and so those demands or those real bad situations happen. Some days it's all good, green. The BP meter is decent, 120 by 80. But sometimes it spikes up, and I think, what happened today? What did I do yesterday that I'm getting this? Everything will be together. My husband is not in town. My daughter falls sick, and even one of the training I still remember for this counseling training. Morning I get up and one girl falls sick. I'm like, I have to attend the training. And my husband had a cricket match that day. And he wouldn't leave his match for any other reason, for nothing on these grounds. And I still did all this circus and yes.
So, apart from a time demand or the need for your physical presence, etc., what other challenges have you faced?
It is mostly time, because what we need to prioritize are our limited time that we have. So what I realized is, when I don't prioritize what is needed, what is important in our life, basically we should know what we need. Let's say, for example, when my children were small, I did not take evening calls at all. I had this normal 9 to 6 job and all. Now my children are big. They don't need my physical presence, but yes, I have to be around. And so my job is also changed. I have calls till about 10:30, 11:30 in the night. And the call starts after 8 o'clock around. So the demands now is so different. They just want, my children would say, I just want you, but we don't need you.
So, these kind of time demands, if you were to ask any guy, also it would be the same, maybe. But I would like to know from you, as a woman, do you think these were different for you? These challenges came, suppose, okay, let me put the question differently. If you were a man, do you think you would have faced the same challenges?
No.
Or why?
A man will not handle children so much as the woman handles, or the man would not take up additional volunteering responsibility as what I took. I'm sure about it. And man will not cook, at least,
So you are
not
saying,
major cooking.
so you are saying,
Yeah.
in the context of your life, you are saying for you the additional challenges were also because of the demands on your time, because of the certain expectations as a woman.
Yes. Yes.
Fair enough. So does it mean that you had to look at how you manage your time differently? So that brings me to the next question. So what is it that has worked better for you? So for whatever reason you had to do cooking, or you are the primary caregiver for the children. That is the role. I understand in most families, there may be exceptions, but in many families this is the accepted practice regardless of the professional role of the woman. So the primary caregiver role is with the woman. So I understand that is what you were doing. So what kind of techniques you had to adapt to, say, prioritize, to manage things? Maybe can you give a few examples?
Yeah. So I plan my whole week in advance. If you ask me on any day, I know what my menu is on the fourth day as well. Both
Wonderful.
breakfast, lunch.
I am a strong advocate of meal planning. So
Okay. So that weekend, I make sure that my fridge is full of vegetables, fruits. I don't have to run around during the week, and maybe some cooked food that I can have during the week, some things like that. And so one, coming back to the technique, I have a lot of planning. And I don't know if I can tell that also. My husband has got to tune to my planning as well, because we are a nuclear family. My parents or in-laws visit us. So when they are there, my life is a little different. But when they're not there, it is a very standard practice that my husband knows that he has to tell me anything a week in advance.
That is a rhythm that you have, you have
Yes.
come to, yeah.
Yes, and my children also know that. And with all of this, I realized that my children also plan with.
Okay. So the planning is a key component.
Absolutely.
And any other technique you want to share?
Prioritize, probably have, my planning also involves, making sure that I execute all of it properly. because sometimes we feel that we have a good plan, we planned well, but while executing, then we realize, oh, maybe this is better or that is better. But no, we shouldn't. We should stick to our earlier plan, because what most of them miss out is they have a very good plan while executing, at that point in time, they realize that maybe there's something else is better than option one, as part of the plan. And then they do option two, which is not part of the plan. And then they mess up because there is a lot of time that has gone out. And they go back to option one. They would mess up that as well because there's a lot of time that has gone by.
Yeah.
So because of that, then they realize that they're not good planners. Actually, it is not like that. What we plan, we should execute. So definitely 95% of the times, it would be a success. And for the remaining 5% also, we would get average marks. Maybe not a centum, not a 95%, but definitely we would be, above average.
So tell me, in terms of your managing many of your roles, planning is one of the biggest technique, planning and prioritizing. And I would assume there are times when these plans won't work, but at least it gives us the opportunity to replan. And tell me, could you share something that has worked for you earlier but may not be relevant now?
My hours of work is different from what it was earlier. I bring, there is about 4 to 5 hours of work I do from home. So that is something which has started in the last 3-4 years. So earlier I did not bring so much work at home. Now I'm able to do that. Probably because the nuances have changed. The way things are happening at home and in office that way. But if you ask me if there is one mantra, no, there is no one mantra. My only thing is have patience and have a lot of tolerance and persistence, and things will sail through. And maybe just cut down the clutter or the unwanted stuffs around. Let's say, for example, we all have breaks in our office, like our chai, our tea breaks and all of that. And we realize that if we are gossiping, the negative gossips really drains our energy. So we have to find out where all this is draining and cut that out from our life. And there are times when I've also seen it that the tea breaks are longer than the real work timing that they are on the seat. And so that we need to consciously, so it is our own self-discipline that I would say, which will get you going at any point in time for anything, whether it's professional, personal, or if it is our own passion. It is our self-discipline to get it going. I can probably a day lay back and think, okay, let me not get vegetables this weekend. Let me see what happens during the week. And the whole week is, it's not circus. You have to, even if you stand upside down, I don't think anything can help us. So that way. So it's a lot of self-discipline that we should have in getting things through.
So in these learnings that you are sharing, I would also like to know other people who have inspired you, who have mentored you, who have guided you, who you have looked upon.
I don't have a role model kind. I would take like when when I talk to you, I know that, okay, this is how she is. Okay. So this is something that I can learn. So there is always this, whomever, when I talk to people and I see I can take something from them, yes, I take it. If I know that I can't take anything, I just leave it up.
So somewhere consistently in this whole interview, I am seeing you as a person with ears and eyes open for more opportunities and for more learnings.
Absolutely.
And I believe this is required, or this is a key requirement for anybody, and especially so for whom I would call a new Indian woman, because it's very important for us to be aware of ourselves and see how we adapt, how we evolve, because these are interesting times.
Yes, and this is a phase where there are a lot of changes happening for all the women. I'm saying the way the world is changing. We have a lot of technology with us. we can put, we can use the technology for our own benefit, not not the other way around. And there's a lot of change that can happen for us as women and for the society.
Yeah.
If we need to have a get together, very simple ones, we don't have to call people, spend a lot of money, and then do now WhatsApp. So easy. Okay, if it's not WhatsApp, you have multiple other apps that we can communicate. Even emails are there, which is very easy, quick.
Yeah, so it improves our efficiency so that we can focus on the main things.
Absolutely.
So tell me, what is your motto or something? What is it that motivates you on your bad days?
That a new good day will come right down the corner.
So I like that.
That's the only thing, because I have seen many times that the bad days doesn't exist. So it's very simple. It's not bad. It's probably we are having some difficulty that day, or some multiple things happen. But I'm very sure if we focus, we will have a way to get it out in a nice manner. See, it is very easy to overthink on the issue, think about ifs and buts in our mind, degrade our energy and not spend the right amount of time in fixing the issue. It's not right. Why? Because we should always think, okay, there is an issue at hand. Let's see how to resolve this and go forward. No point thinking, oh, why did this happen? This could have, this person could have done this to me. Why? No point. Just proceed in life. Continue to proceed. Do the right things. Try to fix the problem in hand, definitely. We may not have time, whatever. Use additional resources.
Again, so try to fix the problem is, yes, it looks very simple. But actually, it's not that easy. Now tell me, in your experience, in the personal or professional context, you would have faced a lot of things where you had to adapt. I know the cultural differences you have got exposed to, post-marriage. One, what do you say, can be a breeding ground for differences to start and make life more difficult actually. Or, for example, having girls at their most difficult years is also a recipe for many issues which crop up every day. So I wanted to just focus on one example where maybe this is what is expected traditionally in terms of what the society expects, or in terms of what is typically accepted in our families because you are a woman, and you had to come out of that. I'm not saying you had to fight it out or anything, but you became aware that no, I have to step out of this and handle this differently. So I do not believe every issue like that should be fought out. There are different ways of facing a particular problem. So could you just share one example like that?
I'll tell you something. My in-laws are from a different state, and there's a lot of difference. Culturally, we are just, when I got married also, my father told, our universal way of telling yes and no for us is it's completely opposite in my in-laws tradition. Just the bare basic of saying no. You shake your head horizontally. We shake, but for them it is completely different. So that basic difference, there is a lot. But one thing I realized is there's no right or wrong. What happens, that is how people have lived. Let's say, I will take the example of my in-laws or my husband. That is how their life has been. And that is an accepted way of life for them. What I realized is no point feeling that, oh, this is so different and what to do. Either talk to my husband. So between me and my husband, things are very clear. Whatever is the right way of doing, whether it is my culture or his culture, which is the right way of doing, we will do that. So it is sorted out within the four of us. It's my children, my husband and me.
Wonderful.
With my in-laws, because they visit, I don't break my head too much. I know that I cannot change them. I can't change my parents as well. They're also different. All of us are different. I just let them be the way they are in their place, in their house. They would live a similar life here. I will not think, oh my God, this is what is happening. This is not what I want, or this is not something that I don't like. It's okay. I just put all of that behind me. So all that doesn't affect me.
Wonderfully.
And I am the only working daughter-in-law in their whole khandan.
Okay.
and everyone loves me as a member in the house. Not like, I have this airs of, I'm working and all of that, but they know that I'm telling the right thing. They come to me, there's some problem, I give them suggestion, and they say, oh, okay, good suggestion, we will follow, or something, they are having, or there's a college admission that's going on, and I tell them, do this, do that, and all. So they're so nice, and what they say is, Preeti is able to handle office work in an amicable way and not having a lot of friction. Relatives come, my kitchen is open, the guest lady, she comes inside the kitchen and she also helps me.
Mm-hmm.
And it is so different. I don't have this issue that no guest, they should be only till the drawing room and the kitchen is not for them. No, everything is open. Even the younger boys I have seen, and why I'm specifically telling boys is the girls, the children they help, the boys also come and help because the father would always say, go and help. She's a working woman. Go and help. I can
Wonderful.
see that difference.
Yeah,
The
wonderful to hear
same
that.
thing. Yeah, the boys would say, we don't help. We don't help our mothers.
Mm-hmm.
Then the father would explain that she's working. She comes back after work. She's not sitting in the sofa and watching TV or resting. She's going straight inside the kitchen. Go and help her. And I can see that they are also understanding how to live with a working woman in the house. They are not used to that kind of a thought.
Yeah.
What how to live with a working woman that way.
Tell me, as at this point of time, what are your aspirations? Do you see yourself working with people, helping them in terms of emotional support, etc.? I'm saying maybe when you retire, that passion will keep on continuing.
Yes, I will. I really want to, and I will.
Okay. Tell me, this is one question I like to ask everybody. Do you agree that we as women enjoy much more freedom today as compared to maybe one generation back or the earlier generations?
Yes.
What is your thought on this?
We are enjoying more freedom, definitely.
What does it mean to you?
How we use the freedom is up to us. I have the freedom to choose whether to work or not. I can decide. But what we make out of it is very important. It is not like, I just give you an example. A working woman does not always have to only work and not take care of the family. There are people who, because they have this freedom that I'm a working woman, I don't have to. So there's this help at home, whether it is a family, a person who's helping, whether there is a parent or a parent-in-law is what I meant, or whether it's a help who's there helping with the children. But that they are misusing the freedom that they have got. That I don't want to go and take care of my children. I'm working. I have the liberty not to go back home and do extra hours or party outside, or even if they go home, then they would take a lot of rest, not take care of the children or child. And the person at home is always taking care of the children, which I don't think it is. The person at home also needs a break. So this is the freedom that some people may be misusing, which I feel is not. So the freedom is there. The way we use it and the way we don't use it, it's all on our.
The onus is on us. Okay.
It's on us.
So I'm going to ask a lighter round, okay? So this is where I'm going to ask you one thing you started doing after being very intentional about your time.
I maybe cut down a lot of unwanted stuff that maybe which is taking a lot of my time. I realize I should be more efficient in doing things. Like I have a 2-week rolling menu, so I don't have to rethink.
Okay, so one thing you stopped doing after being intentional about how you spend your time.
Okay, one thing I stopped doing, maybe I cut down on watching TV.
Okay.
For me, the only entertainment that I had was TV. I don't read books. I read a newspaper for like 2 minutes just to know what's happening in the world. So I think maybe I cut down on watching the same movie again and again, repeat movies and repeat songs.
Okay.
So those things I've read.
Yeah. So, one thing you feel happy your kid is doing for her age.
That they have taken responsibility. That's a very big thing. I know, but they know that when I'm in office and I call them, they have to pick my call and speak to me and not say that, oh, the phone was there, it was on silent, all that. They understand that I am alone or they are alone and I am alone. I want to make sure that they are safe at home.
Okay.
Know whether they are safe and secure. Simple. Most of the times my calls are just 10 seconds. All okay? All okay? Yeah, okay. Bye. That's it.
So, one thing you love to do as a family together.
Now with all this new modern life that is happening, even eating together has become
A luxury. So, that is what you people love to do as
I do that almost every dinner and all the 2 meals at home on
weekends. Okay. Now, how do you like to have your meals? And what is your favorite food?
General idli dosa only. I don't know to cook also. One of the laundry lists I just realized if we can go and add, then I should learn better cooking, a different menu. I'm saying, not just the basic. I'm still in the idli dosa stage.
Wonderful. That's okay. You have survived. So it's okay. So it's okay to have it in your bucket list, but it's fine. So before winding up, I would request you to share something in your mother tongue. Maybe some inspirational line, or maybe just a message, or something from a favorite movie, or whatever it is.
Okay. There's a saying in Tamil. It goes like Purtal Bhumi Alvar, meaning those who wait or those who have a lot of patience can rule the world.
Wonderful.
So finally, it is the patience that's most important and required for today's life.
Excellent. So on that note, hoping to have a lot of patience, let us come to the end of the interview. Thanks a lot, Preeti. It was wonderful talking to you.
Thanks, Krishna. Thank you so much.
This has been The New Indian Woman with your host, Krishna. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode and will tell your friends about this podcast. In case you haven't already, please subscribe to this show by clicking on the subscribe button. This means you will get my new episodes automatically and you will be able to listen to them every time I publish the next episode. Do visit my website, thenewindianwoman.com, for related blogs on this topic. Of course, I would love to hear from you. You could rate or leave a comment in your podcast app or write to me at krishna@thenewindianwoman.com. Thanks once again. I look forward to more sharing in the next episode, and please don't forget this. You are amazing. Fill your life with lot of laughter and fun. Only you can do it.